Back in March of 2020, our country and our world was hit with an epidemic that was unprecedented and like nothing we have ever seen in the modern era. COVID-19, as all of you know, ravaged our world. It killed over 7 million people and sent our world into a complete panic and shutdown. Masks were required, 6 feet were suggested between common people, and vaccines were recommended and oftentimes required to stop the spread of this virus. This virus and the shutdown that came with it brought many new changes into our society, and one of those is the idea of schooling. Before 2020, all of schooling was in person. Everyone, no matter where you lived, went to school either by the bus or your parents took you or you walked to go to be face-to-face with a teacher and other classmates and to have a learning experience that way. But when COVID-19 forced us all to shut down and to go into our homes, there had to be a different way. And that is where online schooling arose. Students went from sitting on their couch or sitting and listening to the teacher, worried if their pencil would roll to the floor, to relaxing on their couch on a Zoom call, hoping their mic wasn't on when they asked their mom for food. It was a scene change for a lot of students and teachers and admin who were involved in the teaching and schooling industry. But over the last few years, we've definitely gone back to normal. A lot more people attending in-person schools, but there's still a lot attending online. And there's pros and cons to both of these, and that's what I will be going into. To start off, there is no objective right or wrong answer. In-person's better or online is better. There's no right or wrong in that. But in 2024, King Saud University, a university in Saudi Arabia, did a study on this. They took 8,297 in-person students and 8,425 online students and took their test scores on a general exam, and overall and generally the in-person students scored higher, but it kind of depended on the class. It was more of a case-by-case basis. So that kind of generally showed that it wasn't as much about the format as it was the fit. But here are some of the pros for the online. The U.S. Department of Education did a meta-analysis on 51 studies, trying to figure out if there was one that was better than the other. But this came up pretty inconclusive, but there was a slight leaning towards online students, because they scored typically generally better. Another pro for online education is accessibility. Today, if you live far or remote, you have special needs, or it's just difficult for you to attend school or to move around school or to do things like that. Today, you are able to do school online from your laptop at home and have just about the same opportunity as those who have to travel to school. So it's a lot more convenient and accessible to people who have problems with that. It's also a lot more flexible. The scheduling for these things. You have an occasional Zoom call face-to-face online, but you can really work your schooling into your normal everyday life. You're not required usually to get things done by a certain time. So it leaves more opportunity for sports to be focused on, or jobs, or many other things that the time can be used for. And for a lot of people, online education doesn't affect them negatively, but it makes education possible. And that's really comes up to a personal opinion for the rest of that. But on the other hand, you have in-person education. In-person education is better in almost every other facet. It is known to help more in the long run of life and success, whether it be career readiness or different things like that. And attending school in person is a pretty good predictor of how you will do in your life. Teachers and administrators can look at a student and see how they perform under different circumstances when they are performing different tasks, and be able to somewhat consistently predict and correctly predict the trajectory of their lives. But also another advantage to that is they're able to see how the person, if they're struggling, an in-person teacher is able to help them and assist them to optimize their ability to learn and optimize their circumstances so they can learn to the best of their personal ability. And that's an advantage that online education does not have. Also, in-person schooling helps with your social skills. Social skills cannot be learned overnight. There's something that have to be developed. When you come to school, you face people, many different types of people with different race, gender, people with different backgrounds, and different home lives, and when you're at school you have to learn to work with them. You have to find common ground with them, and to be able to work best with them, to kind of, because that's who you're dealing with every day. And also from a Christian perspective, if we don't have these social skills to connect with people and to make comfortable conversation, that would really taint our ability to evangelize. So these are more kind of straightforward ideas, but there's also a scientific aspect to this battle. And that is more I'd like to go into the handwriting versus typing aspect. There was a study done in 2025 about handwriting versus typing, and they realized they hooked participants up to EEG programs and had them write down or type out different things, different sentences or whatever, and they observed kind of how their brain function worked. And they realized that handwriting activated a broader network of brain regions, including the motor, sensory, and cognitive cortexes, while typing activated fewer neural circuits. That doesn't apply to in-person too much more than online, but when you are in person, you tend to write more rather than type, and when you're online, you tend to type more than to write. So being in person and being able to have that handwriting and have those motions with your hand will help and improve your memory. So in conclusion, there's not one definite better than the other. There's advantages to both, like online, there's better accessibility, more flexibility. In person helps you develop social skills, helps you more with career readiness, and your learning can be optimized. But with me and my group we studied, we learned that kind of a balance of both is good. So maybe attending in person but taking online classes, because there's the best of both worlds. But it's really up to you. Thank you.